Hi guys, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be feeding my geckos, but also I want to talk to you a little bit about the insects themselves because I think that's pretty important to understand the entire sort of food chain that we're dealing with here. So the food I'm offering today is calci worms, mealworms, morio worms, and of course crickets. I also do have waxworms, but they were recently fed waxworms and they tend to be not as healthy for a gecko, so they're good to be fed as a treat. Anyway, the insects themselves all get vegetable scraps. They also get insect fuel, and they can sometimes get insect fuel gold, which when you make it up it's more like a jelly. So I find that hydrates them a lot more, but obviously you can just give them insect fuel with vegetable scraps as well, like I do, and sometimes bug gel. Anyway, it's very important that you gut load whatever you're feeding your geckos, otherwise the food is pretty much pointless. When I'm dusting the food, I always dust with Earth Pro A, and I always keep calcium magnesium in their tank at all times. One thing I will say is people always ask me how my crickets never jump around, and I think it's because I give them a big enough cage. Now ideally I would probably give them a bit bigger, but if you keep them in tubs like this they're always going to escape, so make sure you at least get a tub minimum this size, I would say, and they have about maybe 200 crickets in there, and that does me for like a month. I can literally see Diego scratching at the glass because he knows I have food. What I always do is feed off the larger crickets first with the little wings. Basically when they have wings, if they're like the males obviously, they're going to attract females, so you'll get chirping. I always order these silent, but obviously when they grow you're going to end up with some that will chirp, so I always feed off the larger ones first to Diego. So usually when I'm feeding Diego crickets, I know he'll eventually catch them, so I'll put them all in together. But when I'm feeding anything like mealworms or morio worms, anything like that, any worms in general, I only put in one at a time just because I want to know that my geckos definitely eat them. So you don't get any that try to bury under the dirt and then they end up pupating. So although he's not necessarily chasing after them now, as soon as I turn off this light, shut the door, he will be after them. So now we have Gizmo. I will be offering her morio worms, and her tank always looks so messy because I basically let her dig around the eco-earth wherever she wants to go. So this is just customised by Gizmo. She's a designer. So I'm going to give her some morio worms. So I'm going to just move this out of the way because although eco-earth, I've never had a bad experience with it in terms of impaction or anything. I do like to just feed them on areas where they'll get less eco-earth if they do accidentally ingest it. So I have slate bits over here, and this is obviously the heat mat. And when I first fed morio worms, if you've ever seen that video, you'll know I actually started off by chopping off their heads because I kept reading everywhere was saying that's what they needed to do because they could bite your gecko, but since then I've never bothered chopping off their heads and I've had no problem. But obviously if you've got a younger gecko then maybe be a bit more wary of that. Now one reason why Gizmo might not be quite as crazy when it comes to hunting at the moment is probably because the light is on, and I do find that can be a bit off-putting with the geckos, but obviously when I'm trying to film it's kind of difficult to film when it's so dark, so I will feed them off camera as well. I also gave Gizmo some crickets as well, and for Ziggy here I am offering a mix of calci worms and mealworms because she's one of the few geckos who will just sit there and eat out of a bowl. So sometimes she'll just come along here and I just have to put this here and she'll just pop her head in. The actual bowl I use is an old waxworm bowl. Zig's really good at being hand-fed as well. She's very like gentle. As crazy as she looks when she's hunting. Oh, she ripped it in half. Got half left. She's so gentle, and even if she like actually caught onto my hand, it doesn't hurt. Go on. Go on. There you go. So what I'll do is I'll continue to feed her from this bowl, and as for her tank, Obviously I could actually put the food in there, but I think it would burrow a lot. It's a lot more likely to burrow. I will do an update on this tank and sort of a review on the dirt, but so far Zig is getting along very well with it. I'm going to offer Minnie the same food. She was enthusiastic, but I think this light is seriously putting these girls off, which is understandable because they hunt when it's dark. So I will turn this off and feed them, and we'll return in a second. Got the Chihuahua out. I'm going to try him with a mealworm now. So there's a lot of foods he hasn't... There's a lot of food he hasn't really tried. He seems to have only really tried, with me anyway, waxworms and crickets, but it looks like he quite likes mealworms too. This one definitely likes his insects as well as his fruit food. Oh. There you go. I don't usually feed him out of the tank actually, I usually feed him when he's in, but I had the feeding drum, the classic feeding drum here, and I thought maybe I will try him out, and he seems to be really liking it. Now we've got a cricket here, would you like a cricket? Oh my goodness, I didn't even get time to register that. So overall, he's doing really well. Lyra, my crested gecko, she doesn't eat that many insects really, definitely not compared to him, so it's awesome to see, and hopefully he'll grow even more because he's a growing boy. Now I've got a calci worm here. Would you like to try a calci worm? Calci worm. Oh. I think this is the most action we're getting out of a gecko tonight, eating their food. Wow, he has just eaten 3 different types of insects. Pretty happy with that. Oh no, doesn't like the calcium worm, just spat it out. No, not your thing. That is unfortunate. Oh, what's that? Oh my goodness! So yes, as you can see, the Chihuahua is probably the star of the show tonight. Definitely loves insects. By the way, a lot of people have been asking me whether they should get a Chihuahua or a crested gecko. I have found that although Chihuahuas are very lovely, just as lovely as crested geckos, very similar, if not the same kind of care, they're a lot quicker in my experience. And of course he's still young and he's still probably, you know, getting tame. But compared to crested geckos, this guy, you know, he could go off in a second. He's crazy. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's given you an insight on looking after geckos. It's going to jump. Don't know how well you can see this, but it's going to jump on the tripod. So anyway, thanks for watching guys, and goodbye.